Are you trying to figure out what exactly the blockchain is in terms that you and I can actually understand? Today we're talking with blockchain expert Jesse Anglen, who is the developer of the second largest blockchain app development company in existence, which means he has a lot of expertise behind the world of blockchain. He's going to be breaking down everything we need to know about how this is going to impact our future and what we need to know right now in order to do a little more investigating as part of our NFT collection series here on the channel. Let's dive in.
My name's Jesse Anglen. I am the CEO and co-founder of Rapid Innovation. I've been in the blockchain space since, I learned about it in 2011. I have been really in the space since about 2015. I've done a ton of different stuff, but my recent company right now is Rapid Innovation. And we are a Web3 development company. And so we build applications specifically for blockchains. We do a lot with the decentralized finance or DeFi realm. We do a lot in the NFT space and marketplace space, and really everything in between, from real estate applications to hedge fund applications and more traditional finance replacements. And yeah, I think that kind of sums me up in a quick fashion.
And because you've been in this space for so long, you're very aware of the world and community surrounding it. And so today, we're going to be talking specifically about what the blockchain is as part of our series on NFTs and the Web3 space. So what do we need to know about blockchains? What is that on a very basic level?
Okay, so you'll have to pull me back to reality if I get too technical, but I'll try to keep it like I'm talking to my children, maybe. So a blockchain in and of itself is actually really simple. It's a ledger, a spreadsheet, and it tracks a couple of things. It tracks the account, and then it tracks who has something in that account. And through a consensus mechanism, popular consensus being things like Ethereum and Bitcoin having proof of work, Binance Smart Chain, and actually what Ethereum's moving to being proof of stake, and other consensus mechanisms, we get this distributed ledger that everyone holds that tells the whole community or all of the users that are interacting with the blockchain what they own in a way that is trustless, so that no one has to verify your ownership of an asset, say an NFT, or a token, say Ethereum. And I think that's the most basic version of what a blockchain is. In order to talk about NFTs, you have to get a little bit more complicated, because if you look at something like Bitcoin, the Bitcoin blockchain is very simply just that, just a ledger. But with Ethereum, the idea behind Ethereum was actually to be able to take very simple pieces of code and to be able to put them on chain, and then allow people to actually run decentralized code on a blockchain. People call those smart contracts, although I think there are probably better names for it, but that's what everyone has adopted. And an NFT is actually just a smart contract. So it's something that somebody creates. NFT stands for non-fungible token. It's a token that somebody creates on, say, the Ethereum blockchain that can represent anything that is non-fungible. So it could represent a piece of digital art, which is how people see that today. But it could also represent things like a driver's license, could be a non-fungible token, or the deed to a house, or the title to a car, or things along those lines. Anything that really can only have a single owner.
Okay, and we've got lots of videos on NFTs from wonderful NFT experts on the channel, so make sure you check those out. We'll link those down below for you as well. And I know what you mentioned a few times was the word decentralized. And I know you kind of touched on this a little bit, but let's really break that down for the listeners. What does that mean, and how is that different than kind of what we experience in our world right now?
Okay, so on a basic level, if you think about the current banking system, let's say, the current banking system is centralized, meaning that there's a central authority that actually holds the ledger, that tells people who they are and how much money they hold, right, inside of traditional digital banking. And so there's a weak point in the system where you have to depend very heavily on a centralized source of information, or a single person or a single entity, to verify the authenticity of the information that's being stored in the ledger. A decentralized system doesn't have an owner. It doesn't have a single point of authority that says, you know, this is the correct information that is actually supposed to be on the ledger. Instead, something like Ethereum has nodes, and those nodes provide consensus to the network. Anyone can become a node or set a node up, and then the authority for the blockchain ends up getting spread amongst all of the different nodes that are providing consensus to the network. And what that does is it keeps everyone honest, because there's not a single person or entity that can say, this event didn't happen, this transfer didn't happen, this person doesn't have, he doesn't have the tokens that he says he has, even though, he may, because the entire network needs to agree. And so the power or the authenticity or the validation for the network itself is distributed amongst really any of the users that want to become a node and participate in validating the network.
So working with the blockchain really adds accountability, because lots of people are keeping their eyes on this, as opposed to having to trust one particular entity to then say yes or no, or go ahead or stop on different things. Does that kind of sum it up?
Yeah, I would say that sums it up pretty nicely. I mean, basically, like the thing that really interested me most about blockchains when I first started looking into them is this idea that they're trustless. Like, you don't need a third party or a centralized source to tell you what's true about the state of the ledger or the information that's on the chain. And so you can, like, when you hold an asset on a blockchain, it's your asset. And unless all the nodes on the entire network decide that you don't hold that asset or you don't own that asset, no one can take it away from you. And so it becomes really, I would say, probably for the first time since the digital age, a way that you can hold something digital, like a token or an NFT or any of these other digital assets, and you can have real ownership over something digital.
I love that. And I actually want to break that down. I want to break that down a little bit more, because we do talk a lot about having that ownership over those digital assets. So what specifically does that look like?
So ultimately, and I don't know how technical you want me to get, so interrupt me if I'm going too far. But like when you go set up an account on Ethereum through MetaMask, you get a private public key pair, and that private public key pair is the method by which you're going to hold a digital asset. So I'm just going to use NFTs as an example, because people like it makes sense to people, I think. So I go onto OpenSea or crypto.com and I purchased an NFT. I'm going to send my Ethereum to the contract that's holding that digital asset on OpenSea. And in doing that, so I take my Ethereum, I send it to that smart contract. And in order to do that, I have to sign that transaction with my private key to authorize the user of that public key to send the asset over to OpenSea or to whoever I'm purchasing the asset from. Once I sign that, the blockchain knows that I have authority to make that transaction. They then get the money. They send me the asset back, and because it's stored in we call it a wallet. It is, but it's not what people really think of as a wallet. I mean, when I've got my wallet in my pocket, right? Like that's where my NFT is stored. But in this case, it's less a wallet and more permission to own anything that is on the ledger under my private key. And so if I have that private, or under my public keys, so if I have my private key, it means that I have access, or I have authority to do anything I want with the assets that are registered in the ledger under that public key. And so, like, a way that I try to explain it to people, if you are really, really good at math and digital and cryptology or cryptology, that's not what it is, cryptographic, basically math, you could actually go and figure out a public-private key pair on a piece of paper, having never even gone onto the internet. Don't get MetaMask, don't do anything. You figure out how to do the math to create a public-private key pair on a piece of paper. And then when you have that public key, you could go onto OpenSea and you could send assets there. Even though you've never gotten MetaMask, you've never touched the internet, because what you're doing is you are creating this line item on a ledger that says that this public key that exists has this private key, and it can now hold assets. And so that wallet is really more instead of a physical thing like MetaMask, a place that you're storing stuff. It's really just a set of permissions that you have to control all of the assets on the ledger under that specific line item with that public key, if that makes sense.
It does. That was very easy to follow. I very much like that explanation. Okay, so when it comes to using the blockchain, how does somebody take advantage of that? How do they use it? How do they get involved in it if they're brand new to it?
Okay, yeah, my mom just started using the blockchain, and that was crazy. I would say that of all the questions that I get asked in my normal life, like when I'm not at my job, this is the one that I get asked the most, because there's a lot of people that want to get into the space, and it's kind of daunting, right? Because it's not I don't know, it's not very intuitive, because you have to think about things a little bit differently. So I would say, like, the first piece of advice that I give people is do research. I'm going to back up a little bit. There's this idea of custodial ownership and non-custodial ownership of anything, right? So I could own a car, for instance, and I could store my car at my friend's house, and I now have non-custodial ownership of my car, meaning that my friend is actually responsible for taking care of my car. If he screws something up with my car, then I could, take him to court, and he would have to fix it. And there's another responsible party. When it comes to blockchain, you get the same thing. There's custodial ownership and there's non-custodial ownership of an asset. And so, for instance, let's say you just want to get into it, and so you need to go and purchase your first crypto. You need some Ethereum so you can buy an NFT. The easiest place to start, and probably the place that most new people would start, would be that they would go to a non-custodial centralized exchange. So you haven't even hit the decentralized part of crypto yet. All the stuff I talked about earlier, you don't mess with any of that. And you don't mess with trying to keep your own private keys and your own public keys, because what's inevitably going to happen is you're going to lose your private key. And at that point, you've lost your assets, because you don't have the friend, right, that you can say, hey, like, you broke this, I need you to fix it for me, and they can. Instead, you're the only responsible party. And so when it's broken, like, it's kind of your fault. And so you go to a place like Gemini or Coinbase, you would grab whatever that you want, and you would hold inside those wallets. Like Coinbase has their own Coinbase wallet that's a lot like MetaMask, that you can hook up to different places and you can do stuff with. But you're allowing them, they're your friend that is holding your crypto, which means you don't really own it yet, because there's a centralized non-custodial partner that you're giving permission to hold all of your assets. So that's the first place to start, because if something goes wrong, if you do something wrong, if you lose your private keys or you lose your password or something along those lines, you can call up their customer service and they'll help you recover it, right? Because they're the ones that are being responsible with all of that information. So that's the first place to start. And then the place that you go from there, that I would that really everyone has to begin making this transition is probably a transition over to either a hardware wallet, like a Ledger Nano S or a Trezor, or there's many of them out there, or a software wallet like MetaMask. And when you set up a wallet like that, you are now saying, okay, I'm no longer going to allow someone to be the custodian of my assets, my Ethereum, my NFTs, things along those lines. But I'm now going to take the ownership of those private keys. And if I lose them, I understand that I've lost everything that I own inside that wallet, because my private key is the only thing that gives me permission to use the assets that are sitting on that ledger line item. And so I always tell people, like, start with Gemini, start with Coinbase, start with the non-custodial centralized stuff, and then shift over into MetaMask or shift over into a hardware wallet. And with the hardware wallets, like Ledger's got awesome software that makes it super easy. And you can actually hook it up through MetaMask, and so you can store all of your assets on this hardware wallet that's disconnected from the internet. And really, all it's holding is your private key. And so then when you want to do something, you hook it up to your computer through MetaMask, and whatever application you're working with, so say OpenSea, for instance, when it needs permission to do something inside your wallet, send money or receive funds or do something along those lines, it'll send the transaction to your hardware wallet, and then you just sign it on the hardware wallet, and it sends it back to the application and authorizes whatever it is you're trying to do. So that'd be the first step. And research, like lots of research. I have lots and lots of friends that have lost a lot of money in the blockchain space because they were the custodial owners of their private keys, and they weren't used to this idea that there's no customer service or password recovery or something along those lines to help them get their money back. And then they end up losing their private key, and and then losing a lot of money. You see stories like that in the news, right? The guy that has $1 billion worth of Bitcoin in the dump somewhere over in Europe, or things along those lines. So yeah, start there and then slowly transition over with a lot of research and understanding that you're responsible for your assets. No one can help you if you lose them.
Which is why it's so important to do all of that research and really make sure you understand where your money is going, where you're putting your assets, and that you are doing the correct procedure for keeping that protection over what you're in charge of. So I love that breakdown, and I love that you've given us actionable steps to start small with people there to help us and to oversee things, and then move it to where we can do it on our own once we learn and grow a little bit more. Do you have any final thoughts for people who just starting to investigate the blockchain before we go?
I would say do it with other people. Like, I've seen it. I have friends that have tried to do this on their own and try to do the research on their own. And, as people, we tend to do this better, like learn a new technology and learn a new way of thinking about stuff better if we do it with other people. And so like in the town that I'm in, there's crypto meetups, and there's other people that you can learn from. And really what you're trying to learn from is their mistakes. And so, I would say that is the most important thing is to do it with other people, and then start small. Don't go and dump your life savings into this to learn how to do it. Start with $100 and figure it out. On a chain where there's lower gas fees, like stay off of Ethereum for right now. Go on Polygon, buy some NFTs. Start small so that when you do make mistakes, you're not losing everything. And once again, like, do your research, lots and lots of research, because it's very different from anything that we've ever really used in the Web 2 world when you move over to the Web 3 world.
This has been highly informative. Where can everyone reach out to you to learn more and to talk with you?
We've got some information on our YouTube channel, and if you search Rapid Innovation, you can find some stuff there. There's a lot of educational stuff on different blockchains and things along those lines. But probably the best place to really get a hold of us is actually just through our website, which is rapidinnovation.io. I do know that we're on social media, and I probably should know all the links and stuff and know all the handles.
We're going to link it all down below.
Oh, perfect. Because I don't. And I know that Melissa is probably going to watch this and be like, dude, come on, man. You should know that stuff. But I don't. You can find it on the website. And so that's probably the best place to really, get a hold of us and start a conversation if somebody wants to.
So as you can see, the blockchain is a lot more accessible to you and me than you might have thought. And if you want more information on NFTs, crypto, Web3, and the blockchain, make sure you hit that subscribe and notification bell. Jesse's actually coming back for another episode where we're going to be breaking down Web3 for you and how it's going to affect you and impact you and compare it to what Web2 is right now. So make sure you follow along for more. If you've got questions, drop them down below for all of my NFT and Web3 experts to answer for you inside of our comments. We'll be dropping brand new videos every single day here to help you grow on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, live streaming, and with the tools and resources you need to develop your online presence right now to grow your business. I'll see you in the next episode.